Dear Heavenly Father, light of all that is, source of unending grace, I come before you now, humbled and seeking solace in the quiet corners of my heart. The world spins, a dizzying dance of anxieties and fleeting joys, and sometimes, Father, I find myself caught in its undertow, struggling to keep my head above the waves. It's not a dramatic storm, not a sudden tempest, but a slow, insidious erosion of peace, like the tide pulling sand from beneath my feet. The air feels thick, heavy with unspoken fears and the weight of expectations, both my own and those projected onto me. I long for the clarity of your guidance, the unwavering strength of your presence, but often I feel adrift, a small boat lost in a vast and murky sea. I see the faces of those around me, each etched with their own silent battles, their own private wars. We smile, we nod, we exchange pleasantries, but beneath the surface, there's a shared yearning for something more, something real, something that anchors us to hope and to each other. We chase after fleeting moments of happiness, seeking validation in the eyes of others, building our lives on foundations of sand. And when the winds come, as they inevitably do, our fragile structures crumble, leaving us exposed and vulnerable. The truth is, I've been wrestling with shadows, intangible yet persistent, whispering doubts and anxieties into my ear. They tell me I'm not enough, that I'm failing, that I'm destined to disappoint. They prey on my insecurities, amplifying my fears, turning molehills into mountains. I know these voices are not yours, Father. I know they are the echoes of a world that values success above all else, a world that measures worth by accomplishments and possessions. But knowing this doesn't always make them easier to silence. They cling to me like cobwebs, clinging to the dark corners of my mind, obscuring the light of your truth. I confess, Father, that I've allowed these shadows to gain a foothold, to dictate my thoughts and actions. I've allowed fear to paralyze me, to keep me from pursuing the dreams you've planted in my heart. I've allowed doubt to cloud my judgment, to prevent me from seeing the blessings that surround me. I've allowed the noise of the world to drown out the still, small voice of your Spirit. For this, I am truly sorry. I long to break free from these chains, to step out of the darkness and into the light of your unwavering love. I crave the freedom to live authentically, to embrace my imperfections, to trust in your plan for my life, even when I can't see the path ahead. I remember the stories of old, the tales of courage and faith that have been passed down through generations. I think of David facing Goliath, armed only with a slingshot and unwavering belief. I think of Daniel in the lion's den, protected by his unwavering devotion. I think of Jesus, facing temptation in the desert, resisting the allure of power and worldly possessions. These stories remind me that I am not alone in my struggles, that others have faced far greater challenges and emerged victorious through faith. They remind me that with you, all things are possible. But sometimes, Father, the weight of the world feels too heavy to bear. The news is filled with stories of suffering and injustice, of violence and division. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to lose hope, to question your presence in the midst of such chaos. I struggle to reconcile the goodness of your creation with the darkness that permeates our world. I struggle to understand why bad things happen to good people, why innocent children suffer, why so much pain and sorrow exists. I know that I don't have all the answers, Father. I know that your ways are beyond my understanding. But I trust that you are good, that you are always working for the ultimate good, even when I can't see it. I trust that you are with me in the midst of my struggles, that you will never abandon me, that you will always provide a way through. And it is in this trust that I find the strength to keep going, to keep believing, to keep hoping. I come to you now, not with a list of demands, but with a humble heart, seeking your guidance and your grace. I ask for your wisdom to discern the right path, your strength to overcome my weaknesses, your peace to calm my anxieties. I ask for your protection against the forces of darkness, your healing for my wounded spirit, your love to fill the emptiness within me. I ask for the courage to step out of my comfort zone, to embrace the unknown, to live a life that is pleasing to you. I ask for the faith to believe that all things are possible through you, that even in the midst of suffering, there is hope, that even in the darkest of nights, your light will shine through. Now, I turn my heart and thoughts to the celestial warrior, Saint Michael Archangel, whose name itself echoes with the resounding strength of "Who is like God?" A question that silences the doubts and fears that gnaw at my spirit. He stands, not as a distant figure of stained glass, but as a vibrant, unwavering force, a protector against the unseen battles that rage around and within us. I envision him, not merely as a statue, but as the embodiment of divine justice, his sword a beacon of truth slicing through the fog of deception. But what does it truly mean to invoke Saint Michael for spiritual deliverance? It is not a passive act, a mere recitation of words hoping for magical intervention. Instead, it's an active engagement, a conscious turning toward the divine power that combats the insidious forces that seek to bind us. It's acknowledging that the battle is real, that the spiritual realm is not some abstract concept but a tangible reality impacting our daily lives. Think, for a moment, of those persistent negative thoughts, the recurring patterns of self-sabotage, the inexplicable feelings of dread that cling to you despite your best efforts. These can often be the manifestations of spiritual oppression, subtle yet potent influences that dim the light of your soul. To call upon Saint Michael is to actively resist these influences, to assert your divine birthright, your inherent connection to the source of all creation. It's about recognizing that you are not alone in this fight, that there is a celestial army ready and willing to assist you in breaking free from the chains that bind you. It's like tending a garden. We pull the weeds of negativity, cultivate the seeds of faith, and call upon the divine gardener to nurture our spiritual growth. Consider, too, the subtle ways in which spiritual oppression can manifest. It might be the constant feeling of being drained of energy, the inability to focus or concentrate, the recurring nightmares that leave you feeling unsettled and anxious. Or perhaps it's the breakdown of communication in your relationships, the inexplicable arguments and misunderstandings that seem to arise from nowhere. These can all be signs that something is amiss, that there are forces at play seeking to disrupt your peace and harmony. However, understanding that these spiritual battles are real is only the first step. The next is to actively engage in spiritual warfare, to arm ourselves with the tools that God has provided. This includes prayer, not just as a ritualistic practice, but as a heartfelt conversation with the divine, a pouring out of our fears and anxieties, a seeking of guidance and strength. It includes studying scripture, not just as an intellectual exercise, but as a way to deepen our understanding of God's love and plan for our lives. It includes practicing forgiveness, both toward ourselves and toward others, releasing the bitterness and resentment that can poison our souls. Furthermore, invoking Saint Michael also calls for introspection and self-awareness. It requires us to examine our own lives, to identify the areas where we may be vulnerable to spiritual attack. Are we harboring unconfessed sin? Are we engaging in activities that are not pleasing to God? Are we allowing negative influences to enter our lives through the media we consume or the company we keep? These are crucial questions to ask ourselves, for they can reveal the cracks in our armor, the openings through which the enemy can gain access. By recognizing our vulnerabilities and actively working to address them, we strengthen our defenses and become more resistant to spiritual oppression. We become like a well-fortified city, protected by strong walls and vigilant guards, able to withstand the attacks of the enemy. And with Saint Michael as our commander, we can be confident that we will ultimately prevail. Reflecting on this journey so far, imagine a tapestry woven not with threads of cotton or silk, but with the very substance of our hopes, fears, and yearnings. Each color represents a different facet of our spiritual landscape. The deep blues of our sorrows, the vibrant golds of our moments of joy, the muted grays of our doubts and uncertainties. And as we gaze upon this tapestry, we begin to perceive a pattern emerging, a design that speaks to the interconnectedness of all things. It's a reminder that our struggles are not isolated events, but rather integral parts of a larger narrative, a story that is being written by a hand far greater than our own. Consider, if you will, the act of navigating a labyrinth. We wander through its winding corridors, encountering dead ends, facing unexpected obstacles, feeling at times utterly lost and disoriented. Yet, each turn, each setback, each moment of confusion serves a purpose. They force us to confront our limitations, to question our assumptions, to rely on something beyond our own understanding. And as we persevere, as we continue to seek a way forward, we eventually emerge into the light, transformed by the journey. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, not as a perfectly paved road stretching endlessly into the horizon, but as a series of stepping stones across a rushing stream. Each stone represents a choice, a decision, an opportunity to align ourselves with the divine will. And as we step forward, as we place our trust in the unseen hand that guides us, we find that the stream becomes less turbulent, the stones become more stable, and the journey becomes less daunting. It is about actively choosing to embody the change we seek, to radiate the light we hope to discover in the world around us. Drawing these strands together, we see that the power to overcome the darkness lies not in some external force or magical incantation, but within ourselves, in our willingness to embrace our vulnerability, to confront our fears, to surrender to the divine guidance that is always available to us. It is a process of continuous refinement, a stripping away of the layers of ego and illusion that obscure our true selves. And as we shed these layers, as we become more transparent to the light, we become more powerful instruments of healing and transformation in the world. It's not about achieving a state of perfect enlightenment, but about striving to live each day with greater awareness, compassion, and authenticity. As we pivot towards the final reflection, let us remember that spiritual liberation is not a destination, but a journey, a lifelong process of growth and discovery. It is a dance between the seen and the unseen, between the known and the unknown, between the human and the divine. And as we embrace this dance, as we allow ourselves to be led by the rhythm of grace, we will find that we are not merely surviving, but thriving, not merely enduring, but flourishing, not merely existing, but truly living. The final call is not a single moment of decision, but a continuous orientation towards a life of deeper purpose and meaning. Therefore, let us not mistake the presence of shadows for the absence of light. The world, in its intricate complexity, will undoubtedly present us with moments of profound darkness, periods where the path ahead seems obscured, and the weight of our burdens threatens to overwhelm us. But even in the deepest night, the faintest glimmer of hope remains, a spark of divine potential waiting to be ignited within our souls. It is in these very moments, when we feel most vulnerable and alone, that the invitation to connect with the eternal becomes most compelling. The call to spiritual liberation is not a summons to escape the realities of human existence, to retreat into a world of ethereal fantasies. Rather, it is an invitation to engage with life more fully, more consciously, more authentically. It is about embracing our imperfections, acknowledging our weaknesses, and recognizing that it is precisely in our brokenness that we find our greatest strength. For it is through our struggles that we develop compassion, through our sorrows that we cultivate empathy, and through our failures that we learn the invaluable lessons that shape us into the individuals we are meant to become. And so, as we conclude this shared moment of reflection, let us carry with us the unwavering conviction that we are not defined by our circumstances, but by the choices we make in the face of those circumstances. Let us choose to cultivate gratitude in the midst of adversity, to extend forgiveness in the face of betrayal, and to radiate love in the face of hatred. Let us choose to be beacons of hope in a world that desperately needs it, instruments of healing in a world that is deeply wounded, and voices of truth in a world that is often shrouded in deception. The true practice begins now, not in grand gestures or dramatic pronouncements, but in the quiet, everyday moments of our lives. It is in the way we treat our neighbors, the way we respond to challenges, the way we choose to live each day with intention and purpose. It is in the conscious effort to cultivate inner peace, to nurture our spiritual growth, and to align ourselves with the divine will. And as we embark on this journey, let us remember that we are not alone. We are surrounded by a community of fellow travelers, all seeking the same light, all striving for the same liberation. And together, we can create a world that is more just, more compassionate, and more aligned with the divine vision.